Well, good afternoon. How are you all today? And welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. I want to tell you why you should prepare like the Mafia and how you can do it. I'm going to get to that in a minute. I'm going to explain to you why that came up, why in the world that came up. Before we get to that, just a reminder that this and all of my videos are brought to you by the Stonemont series. My books, The Complete Guide to How to Prepare for, Survive, and Rebuild After a Total Collapse of Everything. I have to put the copy that I'm reading out of in here because we ran out of books again, and we're waiting for the next shipment in to fulfill a few orders and all the rest that come in every day. For those of you who are with us over on Patreon, I am now up to, I think I just put up part 21 or 22 of my audible reading of the reversion. And if you're with us on the Stonemont level at the Patreon channel, you can hear that. And the link to the Patreon channel is down below. If you're not with us, love to have you. Also, the new Stonemont mugs are out and they are going like hotcakes. We've already sold out our first what we had here, but I've got other orders coming in later this week. We're going to be printing those out and getting them shipped out to everybody who's ordered one. I want you to see how beautiful that is. I should put on my glasses here just to let anybody know. Of course, this has the Stonemont up there, where life is good. Semper Paratus, which is our motto. Semper Paratus means always ready or always prepared. And yes, I know, I didn't know that this was the motto of the Coast Guard when I selected it, but it's a motto of a lot of things. It's a good motto to have. It's got the crossed axes and the crossed rifles, and down below the Bible, along with the one of our favorite scriptures here. It says Psalms 127:1, "Except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. Except the Lord keep the city, the watchman waketh but in vain." And then so that you can see it while the other people around you are saying it's got it on both sides, and people are just raving about this, and I love it too. It is the first mug that got my okay and the okay of Jim Wyatt to put out there and for sale. And then on the edge there it has God, family, and friends, and that's what we're going to be talking about too. So those are available on the Stonemont website, stonemont.us, where you can get the mugs, the books, T-shirts, everything in the Stonemont world. And if you're not with us in the Stonemont world, we'd love to have you there, and join us over on the Patreon channel, and you'll get a lot more. Prep like the Mafia. I've mentioned this a number of times before, mostly on Patreon, because there are a few things that when I put it on YouTube, the organized crime being one, guns being another, and self-defense being another, I just get too many people on here who, if they've watched a movie or read a magazine or something like that, they think they know all about it, and they start putting in a whole bunch of wrong information that they think they know, but they don't. Okay? Now, I do happen to know about this. I'll tell you about that in a minute, but I'm going to tell you why I am talking about this. I got something in the mail the other day, and it was from Mark Bastian, one of our patrons on the Patreon channel. I got this in the mail, and it's Michael Francese's book, Mafia Democracy. And I've been meaning to buy this book. Mark, thank you very much. I'm about a fourth of the way through it, enjoying it very much, and I've been meaning to buy it anyway, and it is a good book. Now, if you don't know who Michael Francese is, Michael Francese, he was a capo in the Colombo family in New York, a very high-ranking guy. He did his time. He was one of the top earners in the Mafia. His father, Sonny, was a legend in the Mafia. Actually, Rudy Giuliani writes the foreword in this. Mike caught some cases, did his time, didn't snitch anybody out, got out, completed his parole, and now he's out. He's a born-again Christian, giving a lot of speeches around the country on business or on all sorts of things. Very smart guy. I like to listen to him because it kind of brings back, he thinks like I do. We think alike. We came from different aspects, but that's what brought me to, I'll tell you this, is that Michael came from the inside of the mob, I came from the outside of the mob, and we come to very, very similar conclusions about the state of the government. He writes this because he was surprised. He's trying to bring to people's attention how dirty and rotten and corrupt our government is, which I found out from the inside while I was working against the mob. Okay, and I'm liking this book. Thank you again, Mark. I would suggest anybody that wants to learn about that, buy it and watch Francis's YouTube channel. He really, you're going to get a sense of a lot of things, and he's a smart guy. Okay, now I want to talk about why you should prepare like the Mafia and how to do it. Now, who am I? What do I know about this, okay? I've known mob guys since I was a kid. My granddads knew him. My dad knew him. When I was 6 years old, my grandmother would send me with a note over to the corner market to give to Uncle Tony. Every Italian market or whatever had an Uncle Tony working at it. And I'd go over there and I'd hand Uncle Tony my note, and it would be a list of what my grandmother wanted, you know, for meat or whatever like that to cook for lunch. And he'd fix it all up, and he'd give me a piece of candy, and I'd, you know, go back home. Occasionally, whenever we would come past there, we'd drive up, park in front of the market. I won't give the name of it, but some of you from Kansas City might know what it was. And my granddad, he'd park by the curb. He'd go inside, and when they found out that my granddad was there, because they knew him, the owner and sometimes Uncle Tony and others, they'd come out to the car and say hi to my grandmother and, you know, ask her how she was and just pay respects. Very, very nice. It was a very nice community in that spot. I'll tell you right now that when the mob ran things in Kansas City and others, I can't speak for New York, New Jersey, Buffalo, Chicago, you know, any other places, but I know a lot of them were kind of the same. When the mob ran things, the cities were safe. You could go down. You could take your wife, your girlfriend down anywhere in town, anywhere. Go down to a jazz club, go down anywhere, walk downtown. You were not going to get mugged because the mob ran things, and people who acted out and did things messing with the civilians, well, they were straightened out or disappeared. Because the mob wanted a safe city. They wanted their restaurants they wanted crowds in their restaurants. They wanted people to come to their restaurants, to their bars, to their lounges. And if people were being victimized, people were going to be afraid. So some yahoo, you know, tried to stick somebody up or mug somebody, that yahoo was probably going to be found in the river. As a result, it was a much safer place for good folks. Now, I'm going to have folks come on here that'll say, the mob are nothing but a bunch of killers and this and that, and they're horrible and everything like that. Yeah, some were. And really later on it became more like that. So I'm not talking about the mob today. And the mob today, and mafia is just a term that we use. It's improperly used. It was never really used, even though Michael uses it here. He uses it because that's what most people are familiar with, you know. Mafia has a very, very particular meaning. It means something in Sicilian. I won't get into that here. I've done it on the other channel, or on the Patreon channel. But here in the United States, it was referred to as Cosa Nostra. Well, it became something different than the way it started. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the way it started and how those things apply to preparedness and how you should think about these things I'm going to list in your preparedness. Now, to understand the mafia, it really started. And it's been all over the world. I mean, there's been organized crime in every in every society, right? And it usually came about, not always, sometimes it was just criminals, but very often, and especially in this situation, it was a way for an oppressed people to be able to survive and feed their families under an oppression of a government and the restrictions placed on them by an oppressive government. There would be many, and you could make the case that the original American colonists, I was thinking about a colonists were organized crime. They did things under the table. They did things illegal because they were being oppressed, right? Some called them terrorists. Some called them traitors. Some you could call them, nobody's ever called them organized crime, but that's exactly what they were, because they were committing crime in an organized way against the government, okay? Now, that's where the beginnings, and interesting, one of the books that I'm having my oldest read right now is Joe Bonanno's book, Man of Honor. It really explains a lot of that. And his son Salvatore, they called him Bill, he expands on it a little more in his books. Interesting, Michael Francis says that it was because of the book that Bonanno wrote, that one, Man of Honor, that really is what started Giuliani and others going after the mob and finally brought them down. That's a whole nother story that if you care about it, join us on Patreon and ask me to tell it, and I'll tell it. Because I just don't do that much here of this stuff on YouTube. Okay, so the mafia, they needed to be able to survive and do well for their families, provide for the families, for the safety and security of their families under oppression. Does that sound familiar? We have a lot of people in the preparedness community right now making a lot of noise, and have been, and rightfully so. I'm not saying that they shouldn't. Making a lot of noise about oppression, but they're coming at it very stupidly, okay? The mafia did not do things stupidly, usually. The ones who did ended up in prison, okay? But the thing is, most of them never went to prison. Most of the people who are connected, nobody ever heard of. They went about, they lived their lives very successfully. They raised their kids, they raised their families. Their kids went to college, became doctors and lawyers and all these kinds of things, and still stayed within, pretty much the group from which they had come. So let me just say a couple of things that I think people should pay attention to as they build their preparedness profile. The first strength of the mafia was it was based on family. Family, okay? The nuclear family first, then uncles and cousins. Aunts too, but the women didn't take really an active part. They took a very supportive part, but not an active part in the mafia activities. It was all about family. Why? Because family are the ones who you can trust the most. Now, I know that right now a lot of people out in the audience are going, well, my family's worthless. My family is this and that. I don't like my family. My family doesn't like me. My kids have gone off the rails. Yeah, that's too bad. That was one of the strengths. That's why the mafia had such strong ties and such family loyalty, because they ingrained this from a very early age, okay? God and family. You trust your family. You never break down on your family so they can trust you. You never take somebody else's side against the family. You're always there for the family, and everybody who's not family is an outsider, okay? That was the strength of the mafia families, of the organized crime families. That was the first level of strength. And many times, when the first families started to be established over here in the United States, first in New Orleans and then back east, they would know, what village they came from in Sicily. and who was whose father and grandfather, and they could trace it back. They knew. So it was very, very difficult. It wasn't until the 60s that there was anybody snitching out the mafia, because everybody knew everybody. No outsiders were allowed in to the point to where they really knew anything about it. And of course, there were people that would know something, associates and things, but they were kind of kept, they didn't snitch because of loyalty. And to be honest, knowing what would happen if they did. Okay, and be real honest with that. The second that they had around us, so what I'm saying here, if you don't have a family like that, if you didn't build a family like that, if your parents didn't build a family like that, if you didn't really stress family, loyalty, and ties, and that core, that family core, I'm sorry, that's too bad. I mean, it should have happened. Some families are like that, others families aren't. The ones who aren't just don't have that cohesion. So I don't know if it's too late for you to do that or not. Maybe. It's one thing that I stress, that Kelly and I stress with our kids: family, 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 family loyalty, family unity. You guys are your best friends for life. Never let anybody go up against your family. And there is that. That's all a part of intergenerational preparedness. And I think that's something that a lot of people in the preparedness circles don't want to think about, intergenerational, because we have far too many people in preparedness that are kind of loners. They're antisocial, to be real honest. They think it's all, it's them against the whole world. And I'll tell you right now, the lone wolf does not survive very long. Okay. Now, second after family, or then the extended family, like I said, it's uncles and cousins and cousins and cousins, right? Beyond that, it's friends. The mob, the mafia, has a large, expansive circle of friends. Why? Because they know the importance of knowing people in different fields, who, if you need this done, you know somebody who can do it. If you need that done, you know somebody who can do it. If somebody needs your help, there you are. You can do it. And sometimes somebody over here will need something. They don't know anybody that does that, but they know you, and you know somebody who does that, so you get them hooked up. And that's how everybody gets helped. And they take this association very seriously. You've heard me talk about my group. I don't call it a mag or a tribe or anything like that. I call it a circle of friends. And we're not held together by just preparedness. We're held together by mutual affection and affiliation and loyalty. We are friends who understand the importance of being there for each other. And in that way, and many people are very into preparedness. Others aren't so much, but they are there when something is needed, which is about preparedness. Okay. A third thing that they understood, and that is the importance. Now, here's something that really throws off a lot of preppers, and it's why so many will fail. So I'm hoping that you'll listen to this and you won't fail in this. As a matter of fact, we had one of our patrons the other day, I believe it was Tom Usher, in the member posts section. By the way, if you're with us on Patreon and you don't check the member posts every day, you're missing a lot. It's one of the first things that I check in the morning. We have just some extremely smart people over there. They're posting stuff in the member posts all the time, of their own experience, their own knowledge bases about preparedness, and it is a wealth of information. So if you're with us, make sure that every day you are checking that member posts area. And if you're not with us, come over, join us. It's a great place. You'll get a lot out of it, and you'll really enjoy it. The link is down below. And he put something in there about, and he says, now this might make a lot of people mad, or he might have said this makes a lot of people mad, but he wanted to point out the importance of making more money. Right. And he made I think it was he who made another statement. It was either he or Triple G who made the statement about something. And it said, the answer to problems is often to out-earn the problem. That's right. Excuse me. I need a sip from my Stone Mountain mug. So many problems are solved with money. Okay? That's a simple fact. And too many people in the preparedness world don't want to accept that fact. They are determined to live with as little as possible instead of increasing their position, improving their position, right? Now, it doesn't, those who continually improve their position, it doesn't mean that they can't do with very little. Most can. But the more money you make, the more you're able to do. The better vehicles you're able to have, the better home or ranch or whatever you're able to have, the more livestock you're able to buy, the more equipment you're able to buy, the more pew-pews you're able to buy, the more food you're able to buy, the better health care you're able to buy, all of these things. And too often, and I think this is one of the greatest weaknesses of so many in the preparedness world, is they don't want to make their lives better. Now, hopefully it's not you, so I'm not necessarily talking to you. But every time I make one of these, I will get all sorts of whiny comments about, well, not everybody has all the money in the, or I can't do this, or, 9 million reasons that they can't do something instead of just going out and doing it. Okay? And a lot of times I just remove those. Those are stupid comments because they are comments about failure. And I'll get somebody calling me a hateful person because I just said that. What I want is for you to do better. I don't want to support people in this poor me failure attitude. You see, that would be hateful for me to do that, to say, well, you just can't do any better than that, right? So just whatever. No. So the Mafia understood the importance of making money, because making money is how they supported their family. They wanted to support their family in the best way that they could. They, unlike a lot of people, they didn't want their children to start all over again on the bottom rung, just like Daddy had, right? Well, it's good enough for Dad. It was good enough for me. It's good enough for my kids. No, they built intergenerational wealth, and through that, preparedness, right? Because they wanted their children to do better than they had done. And in most cases, they succeeded. And because of, they also realized the importance of diversification of income streams. Now, I know that I just lost at least 10% of the people out there when I used that term, diversification of income streams. And I would have gained 10% if I'd said something like, ooh, look, here's a new knife. Okay? I want you to do better. That's why I'm explaining these things. You don't need a new knife. You probably don't need a new rifle. You don't need a new scope. There's all sorts of things you don't need. What you do need is to improve your position every day. You need to get better. You need to get stronger. You need to increase the cohesiveness of your group. You need to build the strength of your family, and that means also the financial strength of your family. Here again, somebody's running in to type on their little keyboard, your fiat money's not going to be any good. It's plenty good now. Well, when they do away with money, gold and silver is going to be the only thing that's good. Money's plenty good now. And go down and try to take your gold down and buy something with it. Okay. So they understood the importance of building their wealth, not just for them, but intergenerational wealth. Yeah, but they all did it illegally. No, they didn't. Some of it was illegal. Yes, it was. Prohibition. Okay? Tell me. How many times have we heard obedience to immoral laws is immoral, right? Okay. How about that? How about prohibition? Was it wrong? That's where the mob of the United States really got their power. People still wanted to drink. They bought them booze. They brought them booze. Okay? And then later, when they, what was that, the 18th Amendment and then the 22nd Amendment, they repealed prohibition. So all of a sudden what they were doing one day was legal. The next day it's illegal because a corrupt government said so. And then a few years after that, the same corrupt government said, no, it's not legal. It's not illegal anymore. So did that make that wrong during that period that they were, bringing in the booze for everybody, including the politicians that had passed these laws to enjoy? No. So not everything. Now, hey, there are some horrible things. That there were some that were involved in drugs. Most of the top guys never allowed it in their families, but there was, because it got to be such big money, there were guys that did it. That was wrong. Some of them got taken out because of it. I know that. Okay, so no, not everything they did. A lot of the stuff they did was under the table, right? Have we talked about that? Have we talked about getting ready when they make everything illegal for you? What are you going to do? How many in the preparedness world just go, okay, well, then I'll stop doing stuff if they make it illegal? Okay, right. That's the same thing that we're talking about, right? Okay, so they understood this, and they've understood this for centuries because they've had to live under oppressive governments for centuries. Learn from that, okay? So they understood the importance of that, of money, of building wealth, because wealth is protection. It not only allows you to get more, but it allows you to, have you heard that, justice depends on how much money you got? Yeah, okay. If you don't want to be victimized by whoever, it's amazing how money can help, okay? That is a lesson. I jotted down a few things just in case, so I wouldn't talk too long. And then they perfected the ability to work both inside and outside of the system. How often do we talk about that? That is important, okay? Are you, when eggs went up to now they're not, I think I just got some for 99 cents a dozen, but a couple of years ago they were $4 and something a dozen, right? Were you able to find somebody that you knew? If you don't have your own eggs, did you know somebody you could get them from for $2 or $3 a dozen? You should, okay? Is that mafia? It's illegal. Did you know that it's illegal to buy those eggs? If you bought those eggs from somebody that you knew and they didn't declare that money on their taxes, but you bought it, you both committed a crime. How about that? Huh? How about the people who have been put in jail for selling raw milk to their neighbors, to their friends? Okay, so here's where I point out. When people come in and talk about the mafia did everything, they're also illegal. Look at the situation. But look at the lessons that you can learn from them, because the mafia are old hands at living under the kind of system that is coming down on us now. You can make the decision just to suffer under it, or you can learn the lessons and be ready for it, okay? Family, friends, large circles of associates, loyalty, building avenues of income, being able to deal both within and outside the system. Those are the lessons you can learn from the mafia. So I want to thank Mark again and suggest, and like I say, I'm about 25% through this book, really enjoyed it. Thank you, Mark, so much for, let me make sure that I didn't show anything here. I might have to redo this. Okay, good, okay, good. Thank you, Mark, for showing this, or sending this to me. I'm really enjoying it. For any of you who are interested in this kind of stuff, it's a really good book. Think about it. Realize that living well under an oppressive system takes some ingenuity, and it takes some getting out there. And the last thing they did, I got about 30 seconds here, maybe, is they were willing to get out there and be a part of the society, making friends everywhere. And that's another problem that a lot of preppers have. They don't like to socialize. They don't like to get out there. They just want to be hermits. And that is going to keep you from having so many contacts that could be very valuable. Okay? All right. Again, good to see you all. Stonemont mugs available now over on the Stonemont website, stonemont.us. Books are available over there, t-shirts and all that kind of stuff. Join us on Patreon. That link is down below. We do a lot of stuff. Yes, we do. So join us in that and be a part of us. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.